Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another event by D6 Learning. Today, we will be discussing the making of Xenopurge, this wonderful and quite unique indie tactical auto battler. The main creative force behind which was Mike, and Mike is here with us. Hi, Mike.
Hi guys.
Uh, lovely, lovely for you to take the time and be here with us. Really, really appreciate it. Now, very, very quickly, let me tell you that I'm Konstantinos. I'm also a game designer, but mainly a game urbanist. Teaching at D6 Learning, as is also Mike. D6 Learning, in case you don't know that, is an online school that focuses on game development, programming, web, and IT. We're not a platform, we're a school, and we're very proud of that. I will be pasting a few links in the chat, so you can find us at d6learning.com, and you can join our Discord via this link that I've just shared. And this is where you will be able to find out about new events, new classes, generally speaking, cool stuff that will be happening. And with that, let's move on to the actual theme of the night. So we will be talking about Xenopurge, and we will be looking at questions. Some of them, if they really fit the flow of the discussion, will be answered as they appear. But I will be making certain to pass them on to Mike towards the end of this event. If you would like to find out more about Traptics, which you probably should, you'd rather visit traptics.com. Again, I will be sharing all the links, and I've just shared this one. And you will also find the game that we will be talking about in case you haven't played it yet on Steam at, just search Xenopurge, or follow the link that I just pasted. Final thing I would like to say is that Mike is also teaching this practical introduction to systemic game design. It will be a course, obviously, on the design of game systems. Lessons will start on the 6th of April, and this is one more link by me for you. And in case you would like to find out more about this, besides looking at the site or dropping us an email to ask us of anything that you might want to inquire about, you can also join us for a live presentation of the course on the 23rd of March. Now, that's that from me. On to Mike, and we will be back again, everyone together, to discuss the game and its making of towards the end. So, see you all in a bit. The floor is yours, Mike.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Konstantina. Okay, so Xenopurge. Let me tell you about the game that we made. Let me try to describe it. So Xenopurge is a retro-looking sci-fi simulation where you manage a squad of alien-hunting space soldiers. The concept of Xenopurge is inspired directly by the second Aliens movie, where uh, Lieutenant Gorman was on his remote center trying to guide the space marines as they were trying to take on the Xenos. And this scene right here, is what inspired us to make Xenopurge. Now, this concept was not clear about how it would become a video game, and it was a very experimental process for us, very iterative process for us. So we think that there was a number of lessons that we would like to discuss here and share with you. Before I move further into talking about it, let me show you a small trailer just to get you in the vibe of the entire thing.
The air feels heavy.
Proceeding as ordered. We've got trouble. Enemy sighted.
Xeno approaching.
Objective complete. Awaiting next order. It's down. Watch for more.
Alien spotted.
I see one.
So this is pretty much Xenopurge, and I know that by seeing the trailer, it's not easy to understand how the game is played, and this was actually one of the problems that we had to, overcome when it came to promoting the game. But the main idea of the game, that you are a commander at a remote center, giving commands to your soldiers. This is something that pretty much everyone can get behind and can somewhat expect. So let me tell you a few things about what were the core features of the game. Now, these are features that came that were of importance to the players, but were also important in finding a publisher, because a publisher is also a big part of the process, and telling them how the game would be promoted, or telling them how the game, what are the strong features of the game, was very important. So the first and most important thing was that it was inspired by the Alien movies. This was an important part where we could draw inspiration from, but it was also a good marketing tool because everyone knows Alien, and it was very easy for the concept of the game to be imagined by the players. Now, a very highly replayable and roguelite core loop was one of the key elements in which the design was based from the beginning. When we started actually designing Xenopurge, Balatro had just came out, and I know that doesn't look at all like Balatro, but the first principles of what made Balatro successful was similar to Xenopurge. We don't have the same success, nowhere close to that, but we like to think that we, took a few key elements and managed to incorporate it into our own design. So very replayable, very cheap to make. As you saw, the majority of the graphics are just lines and dots with a few extra visual effects on top of them. So these were some key elements that we took from Balatro. And now the gameplay came to be a very unique combination of real-time tactics and auto battling. How the game actually plays out is that you have a squad that every member of the squad has its own AI. The AI is somewhat customizable by the commander, but during the combat, the commander can also give commands about specific actions that the AI would not do by itself. You have the vision of the entire map. You know what every one of your units is doing at any moment, and you can interrupt or affect or change the behavior so that they work more as a team. They don't take too much into account what the other team members are doing. It's the commander's job to intervene about that. What the whole concept of the game and the whole concept of the AI is that they only care about their objective, and it's your job to manage their behavior so that they complete that objective. Another very important aspect of Xenopurge is that it combined strategy mechanics with a little bit of a horror vibe. So it was a little bit hard for us to target our players, to know what kind of players would like this kind of game. We felt that it was a little bit like Five Nights at Freddy's, but that one is much more horror-y and much less strategy. So it was quite a challenge for us to know where the game is going to be placed. Um, And another key component of the game was that we wanted this to feel a little bit retro. So we tried to avoid the use of mouse as much as possible. We wanted to do the majority of the controls through keyboard. And the mouse was included later on, but it was more of an accessibility option because some players were just, they really wanted to use simply the mouse and have a little bit more of a laid back experience rather than having full keyboard control. And just to be clear, the game was designed first for PC, but at the same time, it was also supported by a controller to be able to be played by a controller on PC or, on consoles. So there were several elements that came into the design. It had to be a little bit of horror, but not too much horror, because at the same time, it's a little bit of it's quite a bit of a strategy. You don't have a lot of clarity on the battlefield because this is kind of a simulation, but at the same time, it's a roguelite strategy game, so you need to have enough information for the players to be able to make decisions. And this was a real time where you couldn't pause the game, at least at the beginning, with full control of the keyboard, with full control through the keyboard. And the reason for that was we wanted a more engaged experience. We wanted the players to be using both hands, to be a little bit stressed. That's why it was real time instead of turn-based. But all these decisions become a question mark once players start to get inside the game and start giving you feedback. This was the first, let's say, iteration of the game. This is how it looked. On the initial design, we wanted to do something like what you saw in the trailer, where the majority of the information was through a screen with blips and dots and lines and stuff like that. But we felt that this was, too old school, too old looking, and we felt that it wouldn't find the market. So we started the design with this, with it looking a little bit more like a board game. These were like miniatures that they were moving through the rooms. But on the first 3 people that we saw the game, this felt weird. And funnily enough, their first suggestion was like, hey, why don't you do this through a screen where you would see actually the units being dots and stuff like that. And they didn't know about the initial inspiration. So we had 3 completely different people from 3 different sources suggesting the first thing that we intended to do and we had rejected. So there is a lesson here, which is, perhaps you should follow your instincts. You should follow a little bit your gut. Trying to be too pragmatic and too calculational about the design of video games sometimes can, become an issue in itself. So while we started like this, we completely changed the design and ended up with what you saw before. There were a few inspirations for the game when it came to other games, but nothing is very close, especially in terms of gameplay. In terms of aesthetics, Duskers was the best example that we had. It was very easy for us to be able to confirm that these kind of visuals actually are appealing and can find their market, which was our initial fear. So Duskers, if you know the game, it has a very similar aesthetic style. And then Space Hulk, kind of a similar vibe, but in terms of gameplay, completely different. Dead Note is much closer to the experience that we're trying to give because it also has, eidetic UI where everything is through a screen and stuff like that. And Radio Commander, again, a very, loosely similar kind of experience and gameplay. So when we were designing Xenopurge, we didn't really have any way to explain or visualize the gameplay. And to be honest, we never really tried to explain the gameplay on the players. We always used the fantasy of it, the idea of it, as a promotional tool. That you are a commander, you control units. You want to know how you do that? You should just try the demo or play the game. I can't really explain. And this was a tool, a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. It was a good thing because we didn't have anything to be compared to, not really. So everything felt a little bit innovative or fresh, if you want to call it that. But at the same time, we never really knew what is going to work or what's not going to work. For that reason, for many reasons actually, we had a very development cycle. We did the first concept, which was the one that you saw before with the 3D UI, the 3D representations, in 2 weeks. Then in 4 weeks, we had our first gameplay where we also changed the graphics, and by 6 weeks we had the first demo where we could give it to someone to try and play, and we used that demo in Gamescom. So we started, I believe it was 24 June, and by August 24 we had our first demo pitched in Gamescom to publishers and such. And something to mention here, that a lot of the publishers and a lot of the players that we encountered in Gamescom really liked the idea. And we've done like 6 or 7 games at this point. We can compare to the other games that we had, and we could see that the interest was much bigger, the enthusiasm was much bigger. But every publisher and a lot of the players felt that they were the only ones that liked it. It had a very weird feeling that it felt amazing, but it felt at the same time very hard to promote and sell and explain to other people. So we were left with a choice where we had to start promoting the game by ourselves, so that we prove to the publishers and to ourselves essentially that this is something that people actually are interested in and want to play. This was the experience. This was our marketing tool. This was our guideline in design, that we're trying to simulate this kind of feeling, to command your squad from the safety of your command center. We started with the screens and the essential gameplay, and then we also added a bunch of things that resemble the simulation part, where you have an entire room, you can go to sleep, uh, you can drink coffee, read your emails and stuff like that. And this was at the same time also that PVKK was also doing very well. If you guys don't know that game, you should really check it out. So this kind of a simulation within a room, you are a commander, it started coming together through references and experience and iteration. Now, as I mentioned, the game was very hard to design because we didn't really know where we were going. And throughout the entire design, what we did was a lot of iterative tests. After about 2 to 3 months of work, we opened a Steam playtest. We got a lot of players. We got about 4,000 playtesters applying in the game. And every month we were allowing about 500 of them into the game. We were getting a lot of feedback. We had internal forums, and we were tracking their play times and stuff like that. And then reiterate next month, let in another 500 players, and so on. And this lasted for 6 months. So when the public Steam demo came out, it was actually quite proven. A lot of players had, liked it and felt that it was a very good demo. So we did a public demo, and then after the demo, we went into early access for about 5 months more. And that was the release of the full game was in November 25, so about 4 months ago. Now, a little bit about how we promoted the game and how we explained the game. the best platform for us was Reddit, because we needed it wasn't so much of a visual game as it was, a narrative one. We needed to explain the fantasy of it. Okay, you are a commander, you do this kind of thing, and see whether that takes us. We didn't have fancy graphics or explosions or, I don't know, any kind of IP to carry us, but we had this fantasy which is unique, which was a unique thing, and this very niche, very specific kind of fantasy, we realized that it had a much better chance in virality and interaction in subreddits where there were specific people in this kind of, let's say, Xeno related interest than generic gaming forums. So any subreddit, any subthread that had to do with Alien or Warhammer or Duskers or this kind of stuff, our game was going very well in these subreddits, and we managed to gather, enough people to launch our playtest and the stuff that I mentioned before. So Reddit was the biggest one. Blue Sky was okay. Steam was great because we did the playtest there. We had the Steam forums, and then we also had the Discord server, where we could also, have more visual feedback and subreddits, subthreads with videos and images and stuff like that. So, if I had to sum up our experience in a few lessons that we got from this, the first one would be to perhaps trust your instincts a little bit more. It's sometimes it's very hard to explain something in words, and perhaps just implementing it and doing it visually and actually trying the thing, playing the thing. Perhaps this is the best path. Then you need to iterate quickly. At least for us, it's a very important detail. We're a very small team. We need to be lean. We need to be fast. We needed to be fast, and we still need to be fast. And if this wasn't working, we needed to know as soon as possible. And the last one is that for something as experimental and as unique as Xenopurge, we really needed to play test this. We couldn't just rely on our own intuition, because at the end of the day, this needs to be played by other players, and however much you trust your instincts, at some point you need to confirm it with other players. So that's it in terms of presentation. So any questions, any kind of topic discussion, I'm open to.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mike, for that. And while people are thinking of their questions, I would like to, start with a few of mine. So, first question has to do with the thing that you mentioned last, like the trust your instincts approach.
Of course.
How do you know when to do so? Do you have to have some sort of, like experience? I imagine would help. But is there a way to develop those instincts, like to sort of train yourself to know what is perhaps more popular, what would work as an experience? Like, how can you put this down into something like more specific, or is it just gut feeling and that's it?
I would say that the thing that makes an idea seem cool,
Mhm.
it probably is the thing that makes it cool. When we try to make a game, at least in Traptics, we always start from something very simple. Okay, it's like okay, I want to do Mad Max, but it's going to be in the sea, or we want to do Alien, but it's going to be with, I don't know, robots or whatever. So it usually starts with something simple when it comes from an idea. So
Mhm.
the first thing you should do is confirm that initial thought, that initial spark of the idea. Is this what makes it
Mhm.
cool? And if you feel it's cool, probably there are other players that they think it's cool. So you should double down on that one thing, make it as good as presentable as
Mhm.
possible and presentable as possible. And if it's not working, if you feel it's not working, then again, it probably isn't working. You shouldn't spend like 6 months trying to fix something that you
Mm.
feel it's not working.
Do you have a time limit after which you say, okay, this idea is dead in the water, it cannot be really improved, we should move on to something different?
It's a very broad, calculation, but I would say
Mm.
that by if you reach, let's say, 20% of what you would expect that the final game would take, and you still don't have something that seems promising, that seems good, it probably won't get better after that.
Fair enough. I have to ask you though, this is completely irrelevant to the actual development process, but are you still playing it? I mean, do you actually play Xenopurge these days?
To be honest, no. It was a game that was very iterative in its
Mm.
design, which also meant that it required a lot of playing during designing it. So it's funny because you see a game and it's like, okay, this game has a lot of playtime. It has 50 hours. We have players that played our game for over 100 hours, and it sounds like a lot, but 100 hours when it comes to actually working on it, it's maybe what, 3 weeks of work. So after a year of designing this, I've played thousands of hours. I it's not really that interesting to me. And
Fair
to
enough.
be honest,
Fair enough.
the more you play, okay, the easier it becomes. And the game was quite challenging. And the players that we had through the playtest and through the early access, they also learned the game very well. So they wanted that challenge that we had also
Mm.
designed. But when we released fully and we got thousands of players coming in the game, they found that challenge to be a little bit too much. So we reduced the difficulty, and by reducing the difficulty, we also had a little bit of a backlash from the initial group of the players. You really can't please anyone. That's you should know that for
That's
certain. But
yeah.
you know, um, i- going through an iterative process, for better or for worse, you will have constant changes in the game. You will constantly get some people to approve and some people to disapprove of the game.
Yeah, that is very true. Now, another question. This is not by me. This is from the chat, and Mitsos asks, did the success of Xenopurge, I mean, help you overall? Does it did it actually help you work on your next game? Are you already working on something new? Like this is
Um, Xenopurge was successful enough for us to be able to still work on it. We already did several updates after the release, and we are already preparing a new, bigger update. And after that, we plan on doing the console port for. We'll see which consoles, but probably all of them. So the first step of success, I think, is this one, that we are still able to work on Xenopurge itself. We are
Mhm.
considering the perhaps a sequel. We really would like to. There are a lot of ideas that didn't make it into the game, like with every game, and we would like very much to discuss a sequel, but it doesn't directly translate into, okay, now we are going to do the next big thing. It's a lot of knowledge, it's a lot of tools, a lot of experience that we know we are going to take into the next project. We already have designs for our next project, whether it is a Xenopurge related thing or a completely different project. But it's a bunch of skills that we now have in our arsenal to use on whichever project it is.
Yeah, I mean, you always get better, and you even get better if you've been working, as an indie dev for 10 plus years. I mean, you've been working on such things for quite some time.
Since 2012, so yeah, it's been about 14 years at this point. A very important confirmation for us is that there's still a market, there's still a way to make games that are, let's call it, innovative. It's it's
Mm.
it's very different, and all the games that we've designed are different.
Mm.
none of the
That's true.
games were as good, as well received as Xenopurge. Xenopurge, upon release, was on 93 positive review score on Steam, and it's dropping over time because as we go in a wider markets, it's harder to keep that score up, but still at 86%, and we are very pleased with that. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
important
very
for us
cool.
to be able to confirm that we are not the only ones that want to design this kind of games.
And the thing is that sometimes you also have to put up with people who really do not know what they're going in. They fail to understand what the game is about, so they very sensibly feel upset. But this is something you cannot really do, especially with something new and innovative that you cannot describe as StarCraft but blue, something like that. Now another question again from the chat by Ioannis. The question is, what was the process of acquiring voice talent? And I imagine also, how did you go about doing the recordings and everything?
Yeah. So with several things, when it comes to the production of indie games, we're trying to keep the costs as limited as possible. We were lucky enough to come across a specific subreddit on Reddit, which a subthread on Reddit, which is for free voice actors. It's either voice actors that like to contribute, for free in
Mhm.
things that they find interesting, or for people that want to get started in the industry and don't really have a way to do that. So we found, I think, about 30 people maybe that from that sub-thread, that they were extremely interested in contributing in the project, and we included in the project as many as we could. So we had several voice lines that everyone could do. We were very eager about finding people that weren't necessarily English natives, because it's like you have different mercenaries. So if someone sounds a little bit Italian, or someone sounds a little bit Spanish or Greek, this is fine. We want this to feel like it's a whole world out there. And we got a lot of people, and this also worked in our favor in a way that these people became ambassadors. They actually
Mhm.
started promoting the game. Hey guys, I have a role in this thing. Send me we started sending them clips of their own voice lines so they can use in their portfolio. So this became a collaboration, and it was a first thing for us, but we were very very happy with the result. And we did also the same thing when it came to localization of the written text. We
Okay, because there's
collaborated with the
sorry, there's
community.
also a question about that, like how did you handle it, and which languages are supported, and whether you're thinking of adding even more. And I would add to that so that you can answer everything together. Do you feel
Uh,
that it's actually important to add more languages? Does it actually help?
Um, it definitely helps. Okay, it's
Hmm.
a lot of work. We've had a lot of experience with localization, both good and bad. So we know how to do this in a very cost efficient way.
Hmm.
Usually, what we do, we do a first pass in a kind of unprofessional way, where we either find someone in our close proximity that knows this kind of languages and can do the localization, or we use AI, and then we redo the entire thing through the community. So we find individuals that know the game, understand the game, because it's important to know, the language of the game, and we work with them. We add them on the credits so they can use this in the portfolio or whatever. So both the localization and the voice acting was done in collaboration effectively with the community at very small cost. And then the publisher and the partners from the publisher side also contributed in this becoming a much foolproof, much more foolproof process.
So,
Uh,
how many languages right now?
A lot.
A
I
lot.
think we
I have
did.
noticed that.
Um, we've done 13.
Okay, that's
13 languages.
impressive.
So it's English, Chinese, French, German, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, simplified Chinese, Ukrainian, Greek, Spanish, Japanese, and Korean.
Okay, I always play games in English, and I've never actually. I mean, unless they were, initially they came with FMVs in Japanese, whatever. But I would like to play something like Xenopurge and see how it would feel if played in Greek, for example? Have you tried that?
In Greek, it's terrible. I can
Is
never
it?
play games in
I
Greek.
know, me neither.
Uh,
But
but it's important for us that we know two languages, because by checking Greek and English while playing, I can confirm that the system of localization at least is working correctly, and we haven't done, some kind of error in our files or in our programming. So I've only used Greek in order to confirm that everything is working technically correct, but I really hate it. I like it very much how it looks when it comes to Chinese and Japanese
right,
characters. I feel it becomes very, you know, I don't know.
mystical
Yeah, it gives an air of
yeah,
mystery. I don't know, because
yeah.
I can't understand at all these languages, but it seems like much
You know,
more. I don't know. I don't know how to explain, but I like
it
very much to
would
see the
be,
games that we are designing.
this idea of using in-game languages, or whether real or fake ones, that are completely incomprehensible to the player, are always, it's very rarely used, but it's interesting, and it might be worked into some sort of mechanic too. I mean, it would be cool to try and work with something like that in a strategy game, in a tactical game, and see how people fare with that. Anyway, another question, very quickly. The question is, since you guys worked and played Xenopurge so much, would a sequel be different enough to keep you interested, to keep you involved in the actual development of it?
We had an idea about Xenopurge initially, which we rejected because it was the first thing that made the entire project much bigger, and it would be.
Mm,
I mean, I'm fine with explaining this. So, if anyone has played Final Fantasy 12, they had a system which was called the Gambit system, where you could unlock and customize a bunch of conditions and then a bunch of actions in order to effectively create a full AI. Okay,
mhm,
and this is something that we kind of wanted to do in Xenopurge, but it felt like it's too much. So we have a much simpler AI on the units, and we complemented that by allowing the commander to do more specific actions and effectively, you know, supporting the lacking AI of the unit. So just by adding this, it's a completely different game that can, at the
mm.
same time, can support the theme that we have developed here of the
And
remote space commander.
would you imagine a sequel being a bigger game, a longer game, more
I
demanding
think
one?
it's a necessity. In my experience, unfortunately, sequels always fail to meet the excitement and the wonder of the first game. But
You know, they
I think it's
do.
possible.
I mean, it depends on what you're looking for in a sequel. I'm thinking, Hades 2, or whichever game is this logical evolution of the previous game. Is It could never, be as exciting because it's something that we've already seen.
Yeah.
But I imagine that it's something that most people will enjoy. It's the thing that they loved, but more of it and slightly better and slightly different. So yeah, you
We,
have to take that into account.
we have the luxury that people came to this game not because of its gameplay, but because of its fantasy. So I
Mm,
feel as long as we preserve the fantasy, as long as we keep this,
mm.
theme of the remote commander, in terms of gameplay, we are allowed to do a few things differently, try a few things.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Now, another very, very, let's say, dead focused question is like, did you use Unity, Unreal, Godot? Did you like, handcraft your engine? What did the team use to
We
actually develop?
we did everything in Unity. It's the engine we've been using for 14 years now, and it's the one that we are most comfortable with.
Yeah. Do you have any specific tools that you like in-house tools that you're using to make things?
Not really. I mean, Xenopurge is very, bare bones kind of project. The When it came to confirming the theme, it was very easy, very fast for us visually to confirm this, because the majority of the effects and the filters that we're using in order to give
Hmm.
this VHS kind of screen look, they were already available. So it was
Yeah.
Someone could replicate this in a matter of a day. It's no problem.
Yeah, and speaking of visuals, you showed us this early development prototype before, where you have like those space marine like figurines on a something that's like a virtual tabletop, and instantly it doesn't feel as atmospheric.
Yeah.
And my question is like, how is it? Is the atmosphere something that just sort of happened as you were trying things? Did you have a specific plan in mind? Because this is a game that, despite its incredible visual simplicity, is really immersive, really makes you go into its world. I mean, obviously, part of it has to do with the way you control it, this tactile keyboard focused control system that uses both hands, as you mentioned before. But the graphics and the sounds are also part of it. And the question is like, did you plan for that, or did you just try shit until it happened?
I think we got a little bit lucky because we instantly, after the change that we made, we
Mhm.
instantly found what this thing should look like and how it looks cool and interesting. There is so many references when it comes to retrofuturism and cassette futurism and
Mhm. Mhm.
subreddits and the alien movies. There are so many references uh, that instantly you feel familiarity with, but they haven't made it into the game world because they are not practical. You
Mm.
can't really play a game where the screen is blurry and fuzzy and blah blah blah. So the game started in a way that where you are not really playing it, you are just watching it because it's an auto battler. So this kind of visual complexity was fine. So I think we were kind of lucky because
Mm.
we combined a theme that is very um, very easy to match with the gameplay that we wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That sounds about right. And again, staying on this atmospheric and like UX side of things, this the controls, at least for me, work wonderfully. And the whole idea is that you're using backspace and enter and WSD, and you move around menus and you give your commands and everything. Again, this is something that's very unique. This is something that really drives home this fantasy of being Gorman in Aliens, and you know pressing stuff on your console. Only this is your keyboard. Again, how difficult was it to reach this point? Was it just a matter of lots of iteration and a few good ideas?
Mm, I'll tell you what. In terms of design, it was rather straightforward and rather, I mean, we just did what the controls used to do like 30 years ago and how they were
Mm.
used 30 years ago. But letting the player, even telling them that this is going to be keyboard only, the first thing you get back is backlash. They are met with a negative impression. Okay, they open the game, they instantly grab the mouse to go into the settings. Okay, um, and you can't do that. So the first feeling you get is confusion. It's like, okay, why isn't the mouse working? But
Yeah.
once you give it a little bit of time, everything clicks. Okay, and this is difficult to do. Okay, because we had played the game for a few hundred hours before everyone actually get their hands on, and it was like there is no way that this can be done any better. Okay, this is the best way to play the game. It is super fast. Okay, it is
Hmm.
very responsive. It is very accurate. It's the only way that you can do this without caring so much about what's happening on the screen. Okay, because the mouse is a very specific tool. It's a very accurate kind of tool, but our screen is not accurate because it's fuzzy. Okay, so you need the accuracy of the keyboard controls, of the
Mm.
shortcuts, of the hotkeys. We were 100% certain that this was perfect. Okay, and it remained almost exactly the same till the day that we released. However, we needed to add the mouse controls, not because they were better, but because people thought that they were better. Okay,
Yeah.
and once we added the mouse, people started playing with the mouse, and it's like, okay, fuck this. It's not as good as the keyboard. You were right. I'm gonna use the keyboard. So it was like
Okay.
the benefit of the doubt. and it all became better after that.
So I mean,
Um,
if you were to release now, would you actually launch with mouse controls just to make certain that people won't bother about you and simply
yes.
strongly suggest that people use the keyboard?
Yeah. I would include the mouse. We specifically disclaimed that the mouse
Mm.
is there for accessibility reasons. It's not intended to be used in the core gameplay experience. Okay,
Yeah, as
and
the chat says, giving
yeah,
options is always a good thing. Yeah.
85% of the players play with keyboard only. 15% play with mouse. I think it's an acceptable amount for
Hmm. Hmm.
for it to be justified to make into the game, but it's not just using the mouse. Okay, I can guarantee you that the players that play with a mouse have a different kind of experience. Okay, we want the player to be with both hands onto the keyboard, feeling the tension. We don't want this kind of thing where you just grab the mouse and click a few things on the screen from far away. It's
Hmm.
a whole experience.
Yeah,
So
even the position of the body sort of plays into it
yes,
effectively.
we feel it does. Yes.
Yeah, I fully agree. Also, since we mentioned the control, I mean, we keep saying that Xenopurge is a tactical battler, auto battler. Now, the thing is that you don't just leave the game and go do your dishes and it plays out. The whole idea is that you have people inside this map that you have to give commands to, that you have to change the commands to, you have to force them to use stuff and this sort of thing. So it's quite involved, especially when
Yes.
thinking of another battle. Now, the idea is how did you manage to also you know make it a tactically sound and interesting and challenging and even occasionally strategic game with this, while retaining the indirect feel.
Yeah. So we started with a game having zero commands by the commander at the beginning. It was a
Hmm.
complete auto battler, okay. But what this was taking away from the experience is that the commander was spacing out. Okay, it was like,
Mm.
okay, let them do their thing. I'm gonna open something else on a different screen and play with that. And this took away from the tension, from the horror, from everything. Okay, so we started adding actions into the game. Um, actions per minute, per second, call them whatever you want. So
Mm.
gradually, over the few months that the playtest was lasting, and at some point we just hit a sweet spot, and where the player should constantly pay attention, not necessarily do a command, but pay attention because
Mm.
the way that the game is played, because you have uh, these keyboard controls, and because it's completely real time and you cannot pause, you can't really react fast, and you're not really supposed to react fast. What you have to do is to plan ahead. Okay, okay. So it's not like a soldier is gonna get into the room and then you're gonna give command to your guys to go help him. You need to have them in position already. So it's like I have a view of the map, and I need to have a steady input of commands, of actions in order to prepare for the next thing. I cannot react. So it's not like, oh, now I need to do 1,000 things. You can't do that. You need to constantly do small things. And yeah, essentially it was an iterative process through the playtest.
Mm.
We started by having no actions at all and gradually adding actions until it hit a sweet spot.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I think I've told you before that there was this similar but way less interesting game I was experimenting with the studio at some point, and we sort of did the same thing. You started with the idea that it should be as hands off as possible, and then you start saying that okay, this is getting dull. This needs stuff to be inserted into it. Great. Another question: how did you manage? I mean, how did you organize stuff and the production stuff in order to be able to constantly and quickly iterate and have like this very, very quick turnaround and come up with new builds and be able to get more feedback and this sort of thing? I mean, is it just something that you're used to doing? Is it something that you had to take special care to make certain that it happens correctly? Well,
Um, I think this was a building block of the project from the beginning. So the the lack of graphics means that we can iterate and change everything very easily. So
Mm-hmm.
the graphics that we had to add into the game, effectively it was just a bunch of icons and then a few dots and a few lines which are not even colored. We color them in Unity. We can change the colors if something is not working in Unity. So um, this was a conscious decision where it came, from our inspiration from Balatro, like I mentioned at the beginning. It's like, okay, graphics cannot be expensive for us to produce. They need to be easily interchangeable. Maybe we overdid it because they are practically non-existent. I mean, it's just a Figma file with a few icons. But the Unity environment, the theme that we developed, and the atmosphere, fill in all the gaps, fill in the gaps on the imagination, and players got behind this. There were points. At the beginning it was like, but how do the aliens look? I want to see a picture of them. By the end of it,
No.
it's like, I don't want to know how they look. Okay,
Yes.
and we had this idea about the design of the game and the presentation, that the first time that you would actually see an alien and how it looks, it would be in the room, in first person perspective. It would be like some kind of jump scare, so we had this theme where we wanted the players to develop things with their imagination, and it went so well that we eventually never saw the aliens. And it's like, you can imagine whatever it was. And then there were also some theories. Okay, maybe we are the aliens, maybe the other guys are the humans, and that's why we're not looking at them. A bunch of things came up with the imagination of the players. So we're like, okay, let them have it.
Yeah,
Go with the
again,
flow.
I fully agree, and I can also see that in the chat that people are saying that imagination is a very powerful thing, and if you give people a few things, they will create the patterns and fill out the space in a way that's really scary or fascinating or cool to them specifically, and you cannot beat that with the best of graphics.
Yes.
And also another comment I can see is that the simplicity of the UI is worth of praise for the given experience, which again I do agree. So you're being praised for that, Mike. That's very good.
It was, a weakness that we turn into a strength, like every
Yeah.
indie studio needs to do. We had a very important decision of the process, was that we were thinking that the first time that a soldier encounters a unit, a Xenos, a camera would pop up like in first person perspective, like a body
Mm.
cam on the soldier, and show a little bit of the shooting and then close again. And we tried this,
Mm.
and it was amazing the first time you saw it, but what was the point? You're not gonna see it again. I can't show this every time. It's going to
No,
be
it's
the
gonna be
most
boring.
boring thing
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, what's the purpose of it? Why would we have to develop a bunch of 3D environments and animations and shooting for a couple of seconds of pa 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 pa, and then that's done? So we
Yeah.
these are some of the ideas, like, that would be amazing, and then you try it and it doesn't work out. So, okay, yeah,
You're so
I know,
right.
trust your instincts, but you know,
Yeah, but also test it. Like
yeah,
this
yeah.
is why people should iterate at every on everything and at every chance they get. And again, speaking about stuff that you actually did, what type? I mean, you have all those iteration cycles. You have all those hundreds of people that keep on testing and playing and offering you feedback. And this is more of a production focused question. It's like, how do you exactly organize this feedback? I mean, what do you also give them a questionnaire? Do you have a combination of questionnaires and videos and in-game metrics? And then how do you tackle this bunch of data?
We are a little bit aggressive with the way that we request the feedback from the players in all our games. So what we've always been doing is that when the player closes the game, when he quits the game, he
Hmm.
gets a Google feedback form on his
Hmm.
browser. He's
Hmm.
not being asked whether he wants to do a feedback form or not, which means that we do get a lot of feedback. But every once in the thousand, we also get a guy that was very pissed off about hacking his browser, as it has often
Okay. Okay.
came up
That's
with. But
okay.
so we are not politely asking for feedback. We are kind of demanding it.
Yeah, since you played it for
uh,
free, that's it, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You played for free. Just spend 5 minutes for your feedback form. And the way that we do the feedback forms is that we have a bunch of we always have a question that is like, give us a value of 1 to 5, how much you like the graphics or the sound or whatever, and then have a field underneath where you can develop the answer. Okay, and we went to compare the basic values from month to month, and we could see important improvements. I remember distinctly that the overall score of the first playtest that we did was about 3.5 out of 5. And by the last one, we were, I think, 4.7 out of 5, which
Okay.
it's a significant increase. And we would gradually, every month, we would see an improvement. And there was important experience that we had on how do you translate this. We noticed that the second that we added the commands at the beginning, you didn't get the commands. Okay, we noticed that the second that we added the commands, a bunch of the players that had played the game previously had dropped the score, but the vast majority of the new ones had improved the score. Okay, so you had the people that liked it at the beginning because, I don't know, you didn't need to do any commands, but they were a very small portion. Okay, so we made it a little bit perhaps more mainstream, or I don't know how you want to call it, but this was justified by the feedback. Okay, and sometimes you need to push through this. It's like, okay, we lost a few players, but look at all the others. You need to have clarity, and if you have formed your feedback form correctly to know if the player has played the game again, or how many hours he has played, or what kind of other games he has played before, you will be able to filter these feedback forms and determine if this is your kind of player or not.
Okay, that's incredibly enlightening, to be honest. And I think that this way you also manage to gather both quantitative and qualitative data to give you like a very good idea of what's going on. And what was the feedback on the 3D section? And this is a bit of a tiny spoiler.
The 3D section, it went very well, but we kinda cheated a little bit on this. This was another lesson actually that we did learn the hard way from the previous games, which was we need to under-promise and over-deliver. Okay, nearly nowhere on the Steam page do you get screenshots or a mention of the first-person part. We only saw the gameplay on the screens because this is what the players are gonna come for. Okay, I don't want players to come because we have a cool 3D monster looking thing that appears for 2 seconds. Okay, you notice at the end of the trailer we do like a quick flashback of 3D environments just to tease that there's more to it. But on the Steam page, this is very obscure. Okay, so the whole concept about this is that everyone comes to just see dots and lines on a screen, and suddenly there's a whole room, and there's more to it, and there's story, and the whole thing is about over delivering on what they expect. Okay, as soon as this is something that we knew from a previous game. Okay, we knew that we need to keep this hidden and be kind of an Easter egg. Okay, everything about the first person part and the story is kind of an Easter egg. Okay, nothing is being forced on the player.
Something it's something that games rarely do, and it's something that games used to do quite a lot, back in the 80s and even the 90s, which is you were surprised by the game. You didn't have marketing sort of, detail everything to you to the degree that you know exactly what to expect. And I think that those touches, even though perhaps proportionately too expensive or not as effective in the long run, they do add this sense of whimsy and wonder that we really enjoy and love in our game. So I think that this was a very cool touch, and the fact that you decided to keep it hidden was wise. And I enjoyed it. I mean,
the amount of enthusiasm we had in our threads and our spoiler tagged forums about, well, wait a minute, there's more, I can open the door and get out of the room, and what's going we had players so excited. We had other players that instantly got so scared that they were like, okay, I don't want someone to jump on me, and this increased the tension. by not giving them information about how the game was playing or how it was presented, we got so much from their own minds. They
Mm.
become their own worst enemy. And we had this. I mentioned to you that we wanted to do. We had this idea where the first time that you would see an alien, it would be face to face, and we felt that the pressure that this would have on the player was so much. That's why we didn't do it, because imagine being in a room, okay, and
Mhm.
having to watch a screen, but at some point you saw something behind you or an alien, you wouldn't be able to pay attention to what's going on the screen. It was like, oh, is there something behind me? Uh, So, you know, it really does a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's a selection. There's actually a lot of things that came together for the game to work as well as it really does. And I really hope that even more people get to play it. I think it's a very unique, very novel, very well designed, and perfectly actually realized game that is very, very unique and makes you feel very unique things and think very unique thoughts. Again, I had to put the link once again, the Steam link once again in the chat. Is there still a demo available or not? Is that still
Yes, we do have a demo,
you
and
still have the demo?
if I'm not mistaken, yes, we are currently on a sale as well. But yeah,
Okay.
the demo was actually another important tool of the way that we promoted and explained the
Mm-hmm.
game. Initially, we also had a different demo page in order for it to be more
Mm-hmm.
obvious. And it's like, play the demo, guys. Okay, I cannot explain the game. Please play the demo before you buy. And at some point, at a certain degree, it really worked. But there's always players that really don't want to bother with the demo. They just go buy it, and this is why most of the negative reviews that we have is from people that have spent zero point 0.1 hours, because this is not their kind of game. This is
Mm-hmm.
nothing like they expected, and I cannot explain the game. This is why we came up with the
Sure.
term tactical auto battler, which is not even a real genre. It's like, expect
No,
nothing. It's a unique thing of its own.
but it's quite honest if you think about it, because it actually is that. So
Yes,
yeah,
but nobody knows what this is. I don't know either.
that's not
We
what human
started
capital.
calling it a real-time tactics game, and we had an issue with this kind of labeling.
Yeah, because I would expect something like an RTS or
Yeah.
you know something like that. Again, now I have one last question, and this is also a prompt. If anyone in the chat would like to ask or say anything to Mike for him to get to, please try and do this now. So, Mike, the question is, do you have any tips on approaching publishers, like especially
Approaching publishers.
in this climate and in as things are right now?
My experience with publishers is that the more you can give them, the better your chances of working with them are. And
Hmm.
when I say more, ideally you would have a complete game, a marketing plan, a bunch of wish lists, and perhaps the money to do everything yourself. That would be the ideal
Okay.
candidate for a publisher, which
Would
is
you
not,
go for a
of course.
publisher then? Yeah. No.
Yeah. But the more you can, the more things that you can prove before working with them, the better it is. Specifically for Xenopurge, as I mentioned, none of the
Mhm.
publishers thought that anyone else would be interested, despite the fact that we knew that this was the most promising project that we
Mm.
saw based on their reaction. So what we did is we started marketing ourselves. We did the first press release, the announcement of the playtest, and the first trailer and the first social posts. We did them all by ourselves after months of negotiating with different kind of publishers, because
Mhm.
nobody wanted to take the risk. So it was like, okay, guys, we are going to take the risk. So we did the risk, and the numbers that came in during the first month were then our pitching tool during negotiating. It's like, okay, we did this much, which was quite good actually. We got like
Mhm.
5,000 wishes and a bunch of
Mhm.
articles on the first couple of weeks by ourselves. Just take it and do the rest. It's a ready game from a company that has been around for 13 years with already
Mm.
traction, a playable demo, a trailer. we have everything. I mean,
Yeah.
what else do you need? Okay,
But
so
the thing is that what you're saying is not very, optimistic when someone is really starting out right now.
it's
I mean,
not.
they cannot do that.
It's not. Your best chance is to show traction. Okay, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you do. It can be a chess. Doesn't matter if it has people wishlisting it and playing it and
Mm.
whatever. That's the best tool. You need to find traction. Doesn't matter how game your good is, because most of the publishers don't know either.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, Mike. We will be slowly closing this. We've been quite a bit past the 1 hour mark. So
Thank you very much for
thanks.
having me.
Seriously, man, this was incredibly interesting. This was very enlightening. I hope for everyone who stayed with us and listened. I have to remind everyone that you will be presenting the course that you are running, which is about systemic game design, which is something that you sort of your specialty, in
Yes.
roughly a week. So on the 23rd of March, there will be this practical introduction to system game design, the course presentation where Mike will introduce you to how he approaches game design and what systems game design is, and how he will be teaching it in the upcoming course. So anyone interested in that, please feel free to join the course presentation in a week or so, and then the classes obviously too. Again, thanks a ton, Mike. Thanks a ton, everyone, for being here. I don't see any last questions, so I think we're fine. So good night, good day, good whatever it is, wherever you are. And thanks for being here, and thank you, Mike.
Bye.
Bye bye.